Is another day. It is Friday, so welcome to Friday. And today I was just going to give a quick little message on fitness and focus. Fitness and focus. So let me chuck this up here into the top corner, and let's see what else do we have here that we can talk about. Let's do this right here. We'll put this at the bottom. And so, fitness and focus. Charlie was shot 2 days ago. He's gone. I said yesterday, people were like, some people don't like the way that I phrase this, right? But like, your last breath here is your first breath in heaven. If you're a believer, your last breath here is your first breath in heaven. I can't feel sorry for Charlie. I mean, he's done the race. He's finished the race. He's won the race. He's there. In my mind, a martyr, absolutely a martyr. And it's his family, the people left behind. I'm sad. I never met the man. I'm sad. He had a lot of impact on me, and I want to kind of explain why, because I think people are like, "Oh, Kurt's being dramatic." I spend a lot of time with young people. Like I'm part of a church that has a large college age group. I like to work with those college age kids. We used to run the college group in Southern California when my wife and I lived there. We've done youth groups before. I was a youth pastor for a while. I really enjoy the work that Charlie did. He was boots on the ground, man. He was making an impact with these young people. And you'll notice that, none of his rhetoric was like, pro violence. None of it was pro, like, hey, let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation. Tell me what you believe and why, and I'll tell you what I believe and why. And let's see if we can make reason out of this. And he did it respectfully. I can name a few popular names that don't do it as respectfully, right? And then they're still doing their thing. So yeah, it did hit me really hard. It hit me really hard that he got taken out the way that he did. And I feel really bad for his family left behind. And for those of us that don't see it for what it is, that don't recognize, like, this is the call to pick up the banner and run. And so, like I indicated yesterday, there's going to be some changes here at Mañana No Mas. For instance, when I get up in the morning, I generally have some quiet time, and I do some reading, and then I do some, I hate to call it meditation, but I think about what I read. Like, so I read something, generally something from scripture, and I try and get my head on straight for the day. Like, I try to center myself on how to get ahead for the day. And you know what? I started thinking to myself, and I've been thinking about this for a long time. This isn't like a 2-day old idea. I started thinking about this for a long time. I was like, if I'm doing this for me, maybe I should be sharing it with some people. And not from a pastor's perspective. Like, I'm not a pastor. But I think there's some insights. There's some insights that help. So today's Friday, right? And so I'm saying, hey, Fitness and Focus Friday. I'm part of the Great Cycle Challenge. I have to ride 400 miles this month because that's what I committed to. So I said, I'm going to ride my bicycle 400 miles this month to raise money for kids with cancer. It's what we do. Okay. And it's at thegreatcyclechallenge.com. I think if you said like /Kurt Von Onen, that would be my donation link. And so I'm trying to raise $500 and ride these 400 miles, and it helps raise money to combat childhood cancer. Now, those of you that really follow me, that really follow my lives and know my thoughts, I really don't believe in big pharma. Like, I think we can raise all the money in the world, and the last thing they want to do is cure childhood cancer because they make billions of dollars off of it. But here's the deal. If I'm wrong, and I'm open to being wrong, you see, I think that's the big difference with a lot of things out there. Is like, I'm open to being wrong. What if I am wrong? So I participate in these things. Now, I'm a cancer survivor myself. And my fight with cancer was over as soon as it started. And so I feel a little bit guilty that maybe I didn't have to go through some of the things that I see these kids go through. And so these are my problems. They're not your problems. These are my problems. My problems are, I feel a little bit guilty because I didn't have to go through what these kids go through in this cancer game. And so I feel compelled to do this. This is my 8th year doing the Great Cycle Challenge. Okay. So today, I'm making this live with you guys, and then I'm stripping down, getting on the bicycle and logging at least 10 miles. I got to do at least 10 miles today because I got to do a little catching up against my 400-mile clock. And then tomorrow, Saturday, I'm going for a pretty decent ride. So I'm going to do that. But then I said fitness and focus, right? Fitness and focus. Now, it's interesting that I picked Fitness and Focus Friday. Fitness and Focus Friday was like something that came to mind. It wasn't like, it came to mind before other influences hit me. Okay, maybe that's the way I should phrase this. So I had decided early on that it was going to be Fitness and Focus Friday. And I'm writing things down because I do that a lot. I got this tablet. I love it. If anyone has any questions about using one of these remarkable tablets, oh my goodness, game changer for me. All right. And I don't get paid. I'm not an affiliate, nothing like that. I'm just telling you, game changer. I used to have stacks of notebooks next to me at my desk. And now I got this, and it's completely searchable. And I keep all my notes in here. I got a planner in here. I got a calendar. Can you see it? Yep. Okay. So Fitness and Focus Friday. I scheduled the day light. I don't have a lot of meetings. I got a meeting at 10:30. I got one at 12 o'clock. Right? Not a big deal. Not a big deal. And the one at 10:30, I gave that guy a time slot last night at like 6 o'clock at night or something like that. Okay. But as of yesterday, I was like, tomorrow's Friday. I scheduled light. I got to make sure that I do something for fitness and that I do something for my focus. Then I get up this morning, and in our reading plan through our church, we are on 1 Timothy chapter 6. 1 Timothy chapter 6. I am not going to read the whole chapter. You don't panic. I'm not going to do that to you. But if we take just a gander, just a quick gander, it's the close of the chapter. And this is interesting. The book of Timothy in the Bible is not written to me. It's not written to you. It's not written to anybody but Timothy. When I'm trying to look at scripture, I always try to think of who's the audience. Who is the intended audience for this? You see, this is where people like lose their minds, right? That when they get things confused with scripture, there's nothing confusing about scripture. You just have to put yourself in that space. This thing was written in like 50 AD or something like that, like 20 years after Jesus is killed. Paul's writing this to Timothy, and Timothy is growing a church. The church is growing. It's just starting, right? The church is just starting. And so Paul's like, hey, you're going to run this part of the church. I got to give you some advice. So he writes this letter. Now, Timothy has the foresight to realize that the stuff in this letter is going to benefit people. He reads it out loud to his congregation, to the church as it grows. And it becomes kind of like a process map for people on how to run a church. Okay, so this is the book where it says, for the love of money is the root of all evil. For the love of money is the root of all evil. I think that is, where is that? That's chapter 6, verse 10, right? Yeah, for the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. Okay? But here's what I want to get to. When you read this, Paul, in today's terms, is very verbose. He says the same thing 5-6 times, right? And what I took away from this, and maybe I'm oversimplifying things, and it's okay if I'm wrong. I tell you this all the time. I'm okay with being wrong. But Paul is saying, hey, man, stop getting distracted by stuff. Stop being distracted. Focus. Put your eye on the ball. Run things and be kind. Just be kind, right? And so earlier, like in chapter 5, he talks about how do you talk to men in the church? How do you talk to younger men in the church? How do you talk to women in the church? How do you deal with widows? How do you know if they're really a widow or not? Because you got to remember, there was a support system, and they didn't want people that weren't really eligible for the support to take all the support, right? And so there was a way to do that. Now, here's another controversial piece. It opens up in chapter 6 with all who are under the yoke of slavery should consider their masters worthy of full respect. This is where people misuse this verse a lot and say that the Bible is pro-slavery. The Bible is not pro-slavery in the terms of slavery that you and I think of. This is not a Kunta Kinte moment, right? That's not what this is. Slavery back in 50 AD was you would basically sell yourself into a job that had housing and food provided, and you could work your way out of that. It's not the type of slavery that most people have emblazed it in their brain. Okay. And so what he's saying here is all those under the yoke of slavery should consider their masters worthy of full respect. And then it says, if the master is a fellow believer, don't give them less service, give them more service, because your love for them as a believer should cause you to do more, right? And remember, that was written to Timothy. It wasn't like some blanket statement that went out everywhere, okay? So I think keeping this in perspective, right? But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world and will take nothing out of it. But we have food and clothing. We will be content with that. That's strong. There's a lot of times where I'll be talking to someone, especially if I'm talking to a fellow believer, and I'll say business is down, or, making the mortgage payment is going to be a little bit of a stretch, but, this month, but we're going to have to transfer some funds around or whatever. And someone will say, oh, I can't believe God is letting you hang like that. Or that's really unfortunate that, this. No, it's not. And this is exactly immediately where I go. American Christians have this weird idea that God is an ATM machine. We have this weird idea that God is just there to just to dole it out, right? We are already, in global standards, incredibly wealthy. And people are like, oh, I'm tired of doing without. Tired of doing without? Like in the 1950s, not every house had a TV. And now every house has 3 or 4 TVs. And people are like, I'm tired of doing without. You have a phone in your pocket. Like, a few decades ago, you had to jog to the neighbor's farm to borrow the community phone. Like, people just don't get it. Like, do you think Adam and Eve living in the Garden of Eden had every luxury possible? No, they were in the woods with nothing. And they had to figure it out, right? I always say that there's believers all over the world that go to sleep on dirt floors. So when I look at my home, my car that's paid for, when I look at mowing my yard, the amount of grace and thankfulness that comes through that is like, I'm already blessed beyond imagination. Would it be nice if my bank account had more money in it? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Could I be more generous if I had more resources? Sure. Last weekend, we had the college youth group over at our house, just the volunteer team. I can't do the whole group because I don't have enough space. It's a giant group of kids that come. But we had 22 kids over on Sunday. We cooked up some pork. We made some tacos. Everybody came over. We had a fire in the fire pit. It was wonderful. And a couple of the kids were like, man, I really appreciate you opening up your home like this. And they're genuine. They're not shining me on, right? Really appreciate you opening up your home like this. And my wife, I love her. She says, it's not our house. It's God's house. God gave us the house. We live in it. If we don't use it, appropriately, generously, and share it with others, shame on us. And I couldn't agree more. It's like, again, there's believers all over the world that live on a dirt floor. There's believers all over the world that if their neighbor knew they were a believer, could be executed, could be killed, could be persecuted in some way. And so there's a lot on the table, right? So when I look here at 1 Timothy chapter 6, and it's wrapping up the book, and again, it's written to Timothy. It's not written to us. Command all those who are rich in present work not to be arrogant or put their hope in wealth, right? It doesn't say it's a sin to be wealthy. It says don't put your hope in wealth. It's very different. It's very different, right? Focus. There are things in here where it says Focus on what is righteous. Focus on what is true. Focus on what is godliness. Focus on what is exactly. Focus. So right now we have a lot of crap going on. Right now on another screen inside Rumble is a live broadcast where the FBI is about to, I don't think they're going to perp walk them, but they have identified the shooter in the Charlie Kirk case. Folks, the amount of distraction that came through yesterday with the Charlie Kirk stuff is mind-numbing. Do you remember in my live yesterday, I believe I did mention yesterday, in Thessalonians, it says, for those that disregard the truth, for those that have turned their back on the truth, for those that refuse to acknowledge the love and truth of God, God will place in them a delusion. Okay? God will place in them a delusion that will basically turn them over to the lies of Satan. That is in 2 Thessalonians, I think it's verse 10 and 11, something like that. The amount of comfort that piece of scripture gave me, leaps and bounds. I literally have someone in my circles that is an American, born to 2 American parents, that is telling me they're afraid of being deported because Trump's ICE teams are deporting people they don't like. What? There are people in my circles telling me that Congress right now is working to take away women's rights to vote. What? Like, none of this there. And I have friends in the transgender space. I love them individually. I love them. They're friends. I want nothing but the best for them. I hope they stay healthy. I try to ask decent questions, but I'm not trying to convert them, but I do care for them. Okay. So let's be very clear, right? I do care for them, but there are people in their space that would tell them, oh, he's a conservative. He hates you. I don't hate them. I don't really hate anybody. It's really weird to see like all the distractions. And so what I'm saying is Fitness Focus Friday. I'm going to go out. I'm going to ride my bike. I'm going to work on my fitness. I'm going to come back and I'm going to think about the scripture that I read, and it's going to help me to disregard foolishness, disregard slander, disregard evilness and hate, disregard the rumor mills. I sent out an email Wednesday about Charlie Kirk, and I received a reply back that said, please stop sending these emails. Would have been fine with that. I would have been fine with that. Please stop sending these emails. And then it said, he was a Nazi that funded the buses that established or founded the murderous January 6th riot. And I was like, oh my God. For somebody to be that unhinged, that person obviously never saw Charlie Kirk speak. That person obviously didn't know any of the stances that Charlie Kirk had. And that person obviously doesn't understand why hundreds of thousands of people went to DC that day to protest the election that was held with millions of unvetted votes. It's like people lose all perspective on cause and effect. All perspective on cause and effect. It's, to put this in layman's terms for today, people are upset because ICE went to the Hyundai factories and arrested 450 illegal aliens doing what would be high-paying jobs in the Hyundai factory. People should be outraged at that. People should be coming unglued. Like, that's a depressed part of our country, dependent upon blue-collar jobs, and they were given billions of dollars in tax breaks to build the factory there with the intent of hiring locally. And then they brought in illegal aliens, 450 of them, to work those jobs after getting the tax breaks to provide the jobs to the area. And people are upset because the company is losing millions of dollars because of the ICE raids. They are not losing millions of dollars because of the ICE raids. Again, this is a difference between cause and effect. They're losing millions of dollars because their poor, greedy decision blew up in their face. It's not because of the ICE raids. It's not like unjustly, out of nowhere, Trump and the crazy Republicans decided to kill a business. That's not it at all. You were given funding to do something. You didn't do that something. So that's where it's at. I'm getting that level of focus in our own business here at Mañana No Mas. What are we paid to do? We're paid to consult. We're paid to advise people on process maps. We are paid to help people analyze their leadership strategies. We are paid to build websites that match all of the consulting and the crud that was done on the front end, right? So we do the consulting, we do the leadership training, we do a ton of stuff up front. We do a lot with communication. So we do all that up front, and then we can build a web project that reflects all that hard work that's done on the front end. We can do e-learning, we can do community, we can do marketing sites, we can get involved in some of your SEO and your local SEO and all of that stuff. Yeah, we're a full service agency. We can do all that. Not only that, we can come in and we can launch internal training inside your company. Let's say that, we work with your CEOs or your vice presidents and we come up with this, that, and the other thing. Boom. You don't have to do the legwork. You can hire us. We'll come in. We will lay out the leadership curriculum for your whole staff. We can bring them in, do some workshops, and try to get things going in the right direction so that when you launch your new digital product, the internal culture of your company matches the messaging of your digital product. That's what I'm talking about with fitness and focus. I personally believe that I can only work as hard or be as efficient as my body will let me. So if I'm healthy physically, I can be healthy fiscally. Physically, fiscally. It's been a message of mine for years. I'm really big on that. So as we come up on this another Friday, let's try and think Fitness Focus Friday. Fitness Focus Friday. And so I want to challenge you as I end this message. What are you going to do to increase your fitness? What are you going to do to increase your level of focus? Right? And then how are you going to celebrate the end of the week? Whew. I think I rabbit trailed a little bit. I apologize. I will get better and better and better. I promise you. I promise you it'll get better. But I think it's important to come away with where our ideas come from. If your ideas are coming from your X feed, you're going to be all over the place. So I encourage you, it doesn't have to be the Bible. It can be whatever you choose. What's your level of inspiration? Okay. For me, I'm a believer. I believe in Jesus Christ. I try to follow what's in this book. I encourage you to do the same. But if you are on some other target, maybe you want to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and focus on that on a daily reading basis. I don't know. But hey, I think we'll stop with that. Have yourselves a great day. Enjoy the weekend. And if you're the praying type, continue to pray for Charlie's family, especially his wife and children that were left behind. Have a good one. Bye-bye.